England, 1672. The richest country in Europe goes bankrupt. Not because of war. Not because of an enemy. Not because of plague. But because the king lost the treasury at a card table. And this is not a parable. This is the real story of England that almost collapsed because of one man. How a gambler on the throne destroyed the economy of an empire. Watch till the end. Imagine, a country is getting richer. Trade is growing. The navy is strong. People believe in a better future. And suddenly it turns out, there is no money in the treasury. Not because of war, not because of an enemy, not because of a bad harvest, but because the ruler lived as if the state were his personal credit card. This is not a fairy tale. This is England, 1672. Today, we will explore how the pleasures of one man brought down the economy of an entire empire. 1660. England is exhausted to the bone. Revolutions, civil wars, Cromwell's Puritan regime, even Christmas is banned. People are suffocating without celebration. And he appears Charles II, young, tanned, with an easy smile. London greets him like a rock star, crowds weep, bells ring non-stop. But there is one detail that textbooks omit. Shortly after the coronation, candles were lit in Whitehall. The king sat down at the card table, and the game began. Decks flashed, stakes rose, faces paled in the yellow light. By dawn, when the candles were almost burnt out, Charles had lost a sum equal to the monthly maintenance of the entire English navy. He didn't sigh, didn't wince. He just shrugged, ordered the debt to be paid from the state treasury, and went to bed. Without explanation. Without report. Because for him the treasury and his personal purse were not different things. This is not an anecdote. It is the key. For a quarter of a century, Charles would rule England like a gambler at the table. Bet high, trust luck, and never look back. Historian Jenny Aglow titled her book about him, The Gambler. Each chapter is named after a card suit. Now step into Whitehall. By day, receptions. By evening, balls. By night, cards and dice. The clatter of chips, the clink of glasses, the whisper of intrigue. Gambling swept the court so wildly that in 1660 Parliament passed a special act against deceitful games, right in the royal residence. But Charles just laughed and carried on. However, the true currency of this court was not cards, but women. Barbara Villars, Duchess of Cleveland. She enters a room, and the air changes. Her gaze is cold, piercing, and she knows she can achieve anything. Barbara bore Charles 5 children. But most importantly, she built a system to gain access to the king. Ministers paid her, begged her to put in a good word. No appointment was made without her consent. Contemporaries wrote, "The king is mad with her intrigues, and thus the kingdom is governed." And from the treasury, she received enough to equip a whole military frigate. And Nell Gwyn, fiery redhead, a cheeky actress from the London slums. The only mistress the common people adored. Once a mob, mistaking her carriage for that of another Catholic mistress, began to throw stones. Nell threw open the door, leaned out, and shouted, "Calm down, I am the Protestant whore." The crowd burst into laughter and applause. Behind this glitter, emptiness. Money that should have gone to cannons, roads, ports, went to silk, wine, and maintenance of illegitimate children. Luxury was no longer a whim, it became a system. And the system demanded new victims. Now, the numbers. Because without them, this would remain just gossip. Parliament approved an annual budget of £1 million to £100,000. Huge money for the 17th century. England was growing rich, colonies in America, India. The navy controlled the oceans. But the treasury emptied faster than it could fill. Why? First, the maintenance of the court, mistresses, and their children. Charles acknowledged 14 illegitimate heirs. Just this cost tens of thousands of pounds a year. Second, corruption. Lord Treasurer Danby sold government posts like apples at a market for cash, keeping half for himself. And this was common practice. Third, disasters Charles refused to prevent. In 1665, the plague took 100,000 lives. In 1666, the Great Fire consumed 2/3 of London. Recovery demanded enormous investment. And in 1667, the Dutch fleet sailed unopposed up the Thames, burned British ships at anchor, and towed away the flagship as a trophy. Why? Because Charles had starved the navy. All spare money went to entertainment. Year after year, debts grew. Taxes were raised. Creditors demanded payment. And finally, in 1672, Charles signed the decree that would go down in history as the Great Stop of the Exchequer. All state debt payments frozen for 1 year. The king owes creditors more than £1 million, and he simply refuses to pay. This was a default. Bankers, merchants, foreign investors ruined. England's financial system on the brink of collapse. Know what this resembles? Russia's default in 1998. The mortgage crash of 2008. Same scenario. The authorities spend borrowed money on themselves, then declare, "Sorry, no more money." Only then the responsible party was not a faceless cabinet, but one man in a brocade coat. And here is what happened next. Money still wasn't enough. So Charles took a step that would forever tarnish his name. 1670. Secret visit of his sister Henrietta Anne. She was married to the brother of the French King Louis XIV. Officially, a family reunion. Flowers, smiles, music. Behind closed doors, the secret Treaty of Dover. Charles promised Louis 3 things. First, to help France attack Holland, though England was at peace with Holland. Second, to convert to Catholicism in a Protestant country that would be an explosion. And for that, he received a subsidy of £200,000. He sold England's foreign policy. For cash. Parliament did not know. The ministers did not know. The people, even less. Charles smiled at court ladies, played cards, while secretly preparing a war his subjects hated. And in 1678 a charlatan named Titus Oates appeared. He fabricated a Jesuit plot. Supposedly they planned to kill the king. The country, exhausted by crises, believed it. Arrests began, executions of innocent people. Charles knew it was a lie, but he kept silent because fear distracts people from real problems better than any taxes. 1685. Charles II dies. In debt. On his deathbed, he secretly converts to Catholicism, what he had promised Louis, but never dared to do publicly. What did he leave his country? Debt that cannot be covered. Corruption that became the norm. Navy in ruins. Army without funds. Political system eaten away by distrust. Yet England could have taken off a century earlier. Under Charles, Newton, and Hooke worked, the Royal Society was founded. Colonial trade brought gold. But the money went to candles, wine and velvet, not to guns, ships, and schools. The paradox to remember, the wealth of a country is not the same as the wealth of the state. When the elite live in their own bubble, when bribes are part of the system, when the budget is spent on momentary pleasure instead of the future, the state begins to rot from within. No matter how many resources lie in the ground. Charles II was not a madman. He was a gambler who believed too much in his own luck. He thought he controlled the table, but in the end he became a pawn in a game he lost. This story is not about one king. It is about any ruler who forgets where mine ends and common begins. When those at the top play casino, those at the bottom always pay the bill. And every time rulers forget this simple truth, history reminds us of it again and again. Because payment always comes, even if it is delayed for one reign.